Finally your person put you to the big test, just to see if you were. Don't scroll, listen to this, because this message is for you and your heart needs it right now, and if these words found you at this exact moment, it's because the universe is pulling you into a truth that's been hiding behind silence, confusion, and unanswered questions. Your person, yes, that person whose energy you can feel even when they're not around, finally put you through a test, a deep emotional test, a spiritual test, the kind someone gives only when they're terrified of losing something real, something destiny touched, something heaven wrapped. They didn't test you out of cruelty, they tested you out of fear, out of pain, out of past wounds that made them question whether love like yours could ever be real. They wanted to know if you were genuine, if your heart was steady, if your energy stayed pure even in distance, if your intentions were aligned with your soul. And they watched you, more than you realized, watched how you carried yourself when they stepped back, watched if you would chase, collapse, or crumble, watched if your spirit stayed calm, watched if your love stayed soft, watched if your patience held strong instead of turning bitter. And listen to this carefully, you passed their test in ways that shook them emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. They saw your silence, but it wasn't cold. They saw your distance, but it wasn't rejection. They saw your strength, but it wasn't ego. They saw your stillness, your calmness, your refusal to let pride ruin something sacred, and that's when they realized they were dealing with someone different, someone rare, someone their soul recognized long before their mind understood it. Don't scroll, because the part you're about to hear is what your spirit has been feeling all along. Your person started noticing signs about you everywhere. Angel numbers like 1111 every time they thought about reaching out. 222 whenever they wondered if you still cared. 444 when they prayed for clarity, and your energy drifted into their mind. 555 when change started to feel inevitable. The universe has been screaming the truth at them, this connection isn't ordinary. And they know it. They feel it. They dream it. They've even had dreams lately where your face appears clearer than their own reflection. Dreams where they hear your voice, feel your presence, sense your energy with a depth that scares them because it feels too real to dismiss. They wake up emotional, confused, shaken, because spiritually, they feel you closer than ever. And here's the truth they will never admit out loud, they tested you because you matter. They tested you because they're falling. They tested you because something about you feels like destiny, and destiny always feels too big, too overwhelming, too powerful for someone who has only known temporary connections. They tested you to protect their heart, not realizing that the test would reveal your purity and expose their fear. Don't scroll, your heart needs this next part. They expected you to react like others did. They expected attitude, anger, desperation, or withdrawal. But instead, they saw grace, peace, quiet confidence, emotional maturity. They saw someone who could love without losing themselves. Someone who didn't need to beg for attention to feel worthy. Someone whose love wasn't glued together by fear. And that scared them, in the best way. Because suddenly, they had to confront a truth they weren't prepared for: you're the real deal. You're the soulmate energy they prayed for. You're the safe place they didn't believe existed. You're the stability they didn't know how to receive. And now, they're rethinking everything. They're reflecting on every moment you stayed calm when they expected chaos. Every moment you remained steady when they expected storms. Every moment your silence showed dignity instead of anger. Every moment your energy remained pure even when theirs was messy. And here's the part that will make your heart tremble: the test you didn't know you were taking has shifted them. It's softened them. It's humbled them. It's opened their eyes to the truth. They can trust you. Not just with their emotions, but with their future, with their healing, with their heart. They're realizing they misjudged you. They underestimated the depth of your soul. They didn't expect someone as emotionally aligned as you to exist in a world where most people love superficially. And now they're feeling something new: guilt for testing you, awe for how you responded, and longing, deep, aching longing, for the connection they tried to evaluate instead of embrace. Don't scroll, because this is the confirmation the universe needs you to hear. Their test is over. The results are clear. The energy is shifting. Your person is now entering the stage where they're preparing, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, to come forward. They are realizing they cannot replace you. They cannot replicate this connection. They cannot ignore what their soul feels. And very soon, you will feel their energy shift, their actions soften, their presence return. Your intuition already senses it. And when that moment arrives, you'll understand why this test had to happen, not to break you, but to reveal you. Don't scroll, listen to this, because what I'm about to tell you will explain everything you've been feeling in your spirit these last few days: the heaviness, the confusion, the sudden waves of emotion, the unexpected calm, the signs that keep showing up out of nowhere. If you're seeing this message right now, it's because the universe knows you're ready for the truth behind the test your person put you through. After watching how gracefully you handled their silence, how calmly you responded to their distance, how beautifully you protected your peace instead of falling into panic, something inside them shifted. A spiritual awakening started. And they haven't been the same since. Your person has been thinking about you non-stop, replaying everything that happened, every moment you stayed loyal without needing reassurance, every moment you didn't break character, every moment you demonstrated emotional maturity they aren't used to receiving. They didn't expect you to handle the test the way you did. They thought you'd react like the people from their past, with anger, insecurity, passive aggression, or emotional chaos. But instead, you stayed steady. Still. Centered. That shook them. More than they will ever admit. Don't scroll, this next part will hit your heart. Ever since the test ended, your person has been battling themselves emotionally. They've been feeling guilt for testing you, admiration for how you responded, and a growing sense of longing that keeps hitting them harder at night. They lie awake replaying your reactions, realizing how deeply you care without ever pushing, how you love without demanding, how your presence stays soft even through distance. They're realizing that the way you moved during the test revealed something powerful: you're not driven by ego or fear, you're driven by soul. And that's when the angel numbers started hitting them like lightning. 11:11 the moment they thought about reaching out. 5:55 when they felt change rising. 2:22 when they wondered if the connection was mutual. 7:77 when they prayed for clarity. It's like the universe itself has been echoing your energy back into their life, reminding them that this connection has meaning, purpose, and divine timing. Don't scroll, you need to hear this part. Your person hasn't told anyone what they're feeling, but their behavior is giving them away. They've become quieter, softer, more distant from others but more connected to their inner world. They replay your messages. They revisit your pictures. They linger on your name longer than they should. And there have been moments, real, honest moments, where they almost reached out. Where their fingers hovered over your name. Where they wrote a message and deleted it. Where they whispered to themselves, what if they don't feel the same anymore? Because the truth is, your strength during the test scared them, but it also made them fall even deeper. They realized you weren't trying to win them, you were trying to love them. And that difference broke something open in their soul. Don't scroll, the deeper truth is coming. Your person has been fighting the urge to come forward because they're not used to real love. They're not used to someone choosing them without needing anything in return. They're not used to someone whose energy stays consistent even when things feel uncertain. And that kind of love? It feels foreign. Intense. Sacred. They feel undeserving at times, fearful at others, but drawn to you always. Their spirit keeps pulling them toward you even when their fears push them away. They feel you in their chest. They feel you in their dreams. They feel you in those random emotional moments that hit them in the middle of the day. They're starting to understand that the test they gave you ended up being the test they failed, because watching you pass so effortlessly has shown them how much healing they still need to do. And that realization has humbled them more than you know. Don't scroll, because this part is the confirmation you've been waiting for. Your person is planning their next move. Silently. Carefully. Spiritually. They're trying to figure out how to come back without looking weak, how to apologize without exposing their wounds, how to reconnect without losing themselves in vulnerability. They think about the conversation they want to have with you. They imagine what they'll say. They rehearse the words in their mind. And every scenario leads them back to the same truth. They want you. Not because they're lonely. Not because they're bored. Not because they miss the attention. But because they've seen the core of who you are, and it's everything they didn't know they needed. Your loyalty. Your calmness. Your silence that spoke louder than arguments. Your stability that balanced their chaos. Your maturity that softened their fear. And now? They're falling. Hard. Don't scroll, here comes the shift. The energy between you two is changing. They're becoming more emotional. More intuitive. More sensitive to your absence. The universe is aligning a moment, a message, a sign, a chance encounter, that will open the door for reconnection. And when it happens, it will feel sudden to them, but your soul will whisper, this is it. Because destiny doesn't rush. But it never forgets. Don't scroll, listen to this, because what I'm about to tell you is going to connect every feeling you've been carrying in your chest, every sign that's been chasing you, every moment your intuition whispered, something is happening, and you didn't know why. If this message found you right now, it's because the universe is pulling you into the next chapter of the truth behind the test your person put you through, and what's unfolding in their heart right now is bigger than anything they expected. Ever since that test ended, ever since they watched how gracefully you moved, how you didn't fall into chaos, how you didn't try to prove yourself, how you stayed calm, grounded, and spiritually aligned. They've been experiencing a level of emotional awakening that has turned their entire inner world upside down. They can't understand how someone like you remained steady when they intentionally shifted the energy. They expected you to react out of fear. Instead, you reacted out of faith. They expected you to spiral. Instead, you remained centered. They expected you to chase. Instead, you trusted the universe. And that shocked them, deeply. Because it revealed a truth they were unprepared to face: you hold a love that's not ordinary, not loud, not manipulative, not desperate. You hold a love that is quiet but powerful, soft but strong, patient but certain. Don't scroll, this next part matters. Your person has been sitting with their emotions in ways they've never done before, questioning why your energy feels so familiar, why your presence feels like home, why your absence feels like a missing piece instead of a relief. They've been comparing your behavior to everyone who came before you, and nothing matches. Nobody else moved the way you did. Nobody else held their dignity the way you did. Nobody else stayed aligned without needing validation. And the more they reflect, the more they realize that you possess a level of emotional maturity they've never encountered in their life. That's why the test is breaking them now. Because they thought they were testing you, but they ended up exposing themselves. Don't scroll, your spirit needs this part. They are feeling everything now: guilt for testing you, awe for how you responded, fear that they don't deserve you, longing so deep it makes their chest tighten at night. They're feeling drawn to you spiritually, not just emotionally. They're experiencing signs that keep pulling them back to your energy. Angel numbers every time your name crosses their mind, songs that match your connection playing at random, dreams where your face appears with crystal clarity, moments where their intuition whispers, "Reach out." They've been waking up with your name on their lips. They catch themselves staring at their phone for no reason. They find themselves smiling at memories that were supposed to fade but didn't. Something is happening inside them. Something they can't control, something they can't suppress, something that feels like destiny trying to break through their fear. Don't scroll, it gets deeper. That test made them look in the mirror in a way they never had to before. It forced them to confront their own insecurities, their trust issues, their fear of vulnerability. They realized that their past conditioned them to expect disappointment, so they tested you to avoid it. But instead of proving their fears right, you proved their soul right. You proved that real love still exists. You proved that connections can be rooted in spirit, not ego. You proved that emotional safety is possible. And that realization is hitting them harder than they expected, because now they're wondering how they could ever risk losing someone who showed them that kind of love. Don't scroll, your confirmation is coming. They've been emotionally sensitive lately, more than usual. They're overthinking everything you ever said, every moment you shared, every sign the universe keeps placing in their path. They've been talking less to others but thinking more about you. They've been distancing themselves from distractions because your energy is the only thing that feels real. And the family member or friend closest to them? They noticed. They asked questions. They saw the softness in your person's eyes when your name came up. They saw the hesitation when they tried to deny their feelings. They felt the emotional shift even if your person wouldn't say it out loud. And the truth is becoming clearer every day, they're not over you. They never were. They were hiding, not healing. Don't scroll, here's the part your heart has been waiting for. Your person is reaching a breaking point, not the painful kind, but the awakening kind. The kind where someone realizes they can't keep living in fear. The kind where the heart becomes louder than the ego. The kind where truth becomes impossible to swallow. And now, they're preparing. Preparing to reach out. Preparing to admit what they feel. Preparing to step into vulnerability. Preparing to undo the distance they created. They're rehearsing what to say. They're writing messages and deleting them. They're imagining what it would feel like to see your name pop up on their screen. They're imagining what it would feel like to hear your voice again. And soon, very soon, something will push them past the fear. A dream. A sign. A wave of emotion. A moment of clarity. And when it happens, your soul will feel it before your eyes see it. Because destiny always moves before it reveals. Don't scroll, listen to this, because what I'm about to reveal will make the hair on your arms stand up, especially if your spirit has been restless lately, if your dreams have been intense, if your intuition has been louder than usual. If this message is on your screen right now, it's not an accident. This is divine timing, spiritual alignment, your higher self pulling you toward a truth you're meant to hear. Your person, the one who tested you, the one who's been watching your reactions in silence, the one who's been trying to convince themselves they're fine without you, is experiencing an emotional shift so powerful that the people around them can feel it. They're quieter than usual. More reflective. More distant from everyone except their own thoughts. They're moving through their day with that heavy, faraway look, the look of someone who's realizing they misjudged something sacred. And the truth is, they've been carrying your energy in their chest like a weight they can't shake. The test they put you through? It's backfiring in their heart. They thought they'd feel relieved if you failed. Instead, they're overwhelmed because you passed with a grace they weren't ready for. Now the guilt is sinking in, the guilt of testing someone who was genuine, the guilt of doubting someone whose energy stayed pure, the guilt of pushing away a love they didn't believe they deserved. Don't scroll, this next part is the part your intuition has been trying to tell you. Your person has been getting emotional over the smallest things lately. A song that used to mean nothing suddenly hits differently. A memory they thought they forgot suddenly brings a sting behind their eyes. They're hearing your name in places where nobody said it. They're feeling you in rooms where you aren't present. They're waking up from dreams that feel so real they need a moment to remember you're not beside them. They're seeing angel numbers in patterns that make them pause, 1111 when they think about reaching out, 333 when they're struggling to understand their emotions, 444 when they're reminded of spiritual protection, 222 when they wonder if you still care. And every time one of these signs appears, they freeze, because something inside them whispers, this connection isn't finished. Don't scroll, because the energy is shifting faster than you realize. Someone close to them, maybe a family member or trusted friend, has noticed the change too. They've noticed how your person flinches when your name comes up. They've noticed how their voice gets softer when they talk about the past. They've noticed how your person stops mid-sentence, lost in a memory. And this person, this family member, this friend, they're starting to ask questions like, why are you still thinking about them? Or, if you care that much, why aren't you doing something about it? And your person doesn't know how to answer because the truth is too vulnerable, too raw, too heavy to put into words. They're realizing that the test wasn't just about you, it exposed their own fears, their own wounds, their own hesitation to believe in something real. They're realizing they weren't testing your loyalty. They were testing their capacity to trust again. And now that the truth is staring them in the face, they're overwhelmed. Don't scroll, this is where the emotional breakthrough begins. Your person has been replaying your last conversations, the last moment you saw each other, the way things shifted, the silence that followed. They've been wondering if they pushed too hard, if they waited too long, if they damaged something beautiful beyond repair. Their mind is anxious, but their spirit feels pulled toward you, almost like your soul is calling theirs. They're feeling things they don't want to admit, longing, regret, hope, fear, desire, all tangled together. They're realizing that no distraction fills the void. No new person replaces the energy you carry. No amount of pretending makes the ache disappear. And that realization? It's shaking them. It's making them uncomfortable. It's forcing them to confront feelings they ran from for months. Don't scroll, because the universe is preparing them for a moment of truth. They've been fantasizing about reaching out, imagining what they'd say, imagining how you'd respond, imagining the relief they'd feel if you welcomed them back with warmth. They've been picturing your face, your voice, your energy. They've been reliving memories because the memories feel safer than the silence. But here's what they don't know yet. The longer they suppress what they feel, the louder the universe will speak. That's why the signs are intensifying. That's why the dreams are becoming vivid. That's why the emotions are hitting harder. That's why the guilt is growing heavier. Because they're being spiritually pushed toward healing, and toward you. Don't scroll, because here is your confirmation. Your person is reaching the point where their heart can't keep quiet. They're reaching the moment where the truth becomes too heavy to carry alone. They're getting ready, ready to open up, ready to confess, ready to undo the distance they created. They don't know how yet, they don't know when, but they can feel it coming. The test is over. The truth is rising. The energy is shifting. And very soon, the silence will break. Don't scroll, listen to this, because what I'm about to tell you is going to pierce straight into the place in your soul where intuition whispers louder than logic, and if your heart has been heavy, restless, or suddenly emotional for no clear reason, this message is your confirmation. Ever since your person put you through that silent test, the test they created out of fear, not malice, something inside them has been unraveling in ways they did not expect, and the people around them are starting to feel the shift even when your person refuses to admit it out loud. They've been walking around with this weight in their chest, a mix of longing, regret, and a desire they can't shake, because the truth is hitting them harder with each passing day. You didn't just pass their test, you exposed their own heart to a depth they didn't think they were capable of feeling. They're waking up in the middle of the night thinking about you, going to sleep with your name in their mind, moving through their day with a quiet ache they try to hide. Songs that never meant anything suddenly sound like confessions. Places that used to feel ordinary now feel like reminders. Your absence feels louder than your presence ever did. They're realizing they didn't just test your loyalty, they tested your spirit, your consistency, your heart. And what they saw shook them because you didn't crumble, you didn't chase out of fear, you didn't lash out from insecurity. You stood in your strength. You stood in your peace. You stood in your truth. And that revealed something they weren't ready to confront. You hold the kind of energy people spend their entire lives searching for. And now? They don't know how to live with the consequences of their actions. Don't scroll. You need to hear this next part because it explains the emotional intensity you've been feeling lately. Your person has been getting signs everywhere. They look at the clock and see 11:11 right when they're thinking about you. They see 222 when they question whether the connection is still mutual. They catch 555 on receipts, signs, and timestamps whenever they sense change approaching. The universe is pushing them, nudging them, whispering to their soul that it's time to stop running. And every time they try to distract themselves, something happens, a dream, a memory, a sudden wave of emotion, that snaps them right back into the reality of what they feel for you. They're trying to act strong on the surface, but behind closed doors? They're cracking. They're overthinking. They're replaying. They're sitting in silence with tears building in their eyes because they've realized they misjudged someone who was sent into their life as a blessing, not a threat. They're wrestling with guilt too, guilt for testing you, guilt for doubting you, guilt for pushing you away when all you did was move with patience and sincerity. Don't scroll, this is where the shift gets intense. Someone close to them has noticed the emotional change. Maybe a family member, maybe a friend, maybe someone who knows them well enough to sense when their heart is not at peace. They've asked questions like, "Why do you seem so distant lately?" Or, "Are you thinking about them again?" Or, "If they matter this much, why aren't you doing something about it?" And your person doesn't have an answer. Not because they don't feel anything, but because they feel too much. They're scared of messing up. They're scared of being vulnerable. They're scared of opening their heart and finding out if you still care. But at the same time, the fear of losing you forever is starting to outweigh the fear of reaching out. That's why their energy feels so chaotic right now. They're at war with themselves. Their soul wants you. Their fear wants distance. Their intuition is screaming. Their ego is trembling. Their heart is exhausted. And something is going to give. Don't scroll, because this next part explains why your spirit has been sensing a breakthrough. Your person is hitting emotional capacity. The silence is becoming too heavy. The distance is becoming too painful. They're realizing that pretending they're fine isn't working anymore. They're realizing that running from a connection only pulls them deeper into it. They're realizing that what they feel for you isn't temporary, accidental, or replaceable. It's divine. It's magnetic. It's soul-recognizing soul energy. And the universe is about to corner them in the most beautiful way, through signs, dreams, synchronicities, and emotions they can't escape. They're getting closer to a moment of truth. They're rehearsing what they want to say. They're imagining reaching out. They're picturing your reaction. They're thinking about the possibility of starting over. They're feeling the urge to message you stronger than ever, but they're terrified of being vulnerable. Despite that fear, something transformational is happening. Their love for you is becoming stronger than their fear of being hurt. And when that shift happens inside a person, the universe makes sure action follows. So listen. Very soon, the silence will break. Not because you chased them, but because your energy, your loyalty, your authenticity, your soul spoke louder than any test they tried to give you. Don't scroll, listen to this, because what you're about to hear will connect every emotion you've been feeling lately, the heaviness in your chest, the sudden waves of sadness, the flashes of hope, the unexplained calm. And if this message found you right now, it's because the universe is whispering loud enough for your soul to catch it. Your person has entered a stage of emotional unraveling they can't hide anymore. The test they put you through is haunting them in a way they never expected. They thought distance would give them clarity, but all it did was intensify their longing for you. They thought silence would make them stronger, but it only exposed how much they depend on your energy. They thought pulling away would make them feel in control, but instead they're losing control of their own emotions. And the people around them? They see it. They feel it. They're noticing how your person's eyes glaze over when something reminds them of you, how their mood shifts when their thoughts drift in your direction, how they zone out in the middle of conversations because their mind is replaying moments with you. Someone close to them has even asked, "Why do you look so sad lately?" Or, "Are you thinking about them again?" And your person didn't even deny it, they couldn't. Their silence was the confession. Don't scroll, this is where it gets deeper. Your person is being hit with signs harder than ever. Every time they think about messaging you, 1111 shows up. When they wonder whether you still care, 222 appears. When they feel overwhelmed with emotion, 444 follows them like a gentle nudge from the universe telling them they're protected. And when they contemplate making a move, 555 pops up, reminding them that change is inevitable. These signs are everywhere, on receipts, on clocks, in songs, in dreams, and no matter how hard they try to brush them off as coincidence, they can't escape the truth. The universe is pushing them toward you. Lately, they've been having dreams about you that feel more like memories from a different lifetime, dreams where you're embracing, talking, laughing, healing each other. They wake up with their heart racing, their breath shaky, their eyes watery, because for a few seconds after waking up, it feels like you were right there with them. And that feeling? It's breaking them in the most beautiful and terrifying way. Don't scroll, your intuition needs the next part. Your person is emotionally overwhelmed because they're starting to understand that they didn't just test you, they tested fate. They tested the universe. They tested a connection that wasn't meant to be tampered with. And now, the weight of that realization is settling in their chest like a truth they can no longer outrun. They're confronting their own fears, fear of vulnerability, fear of being hurt, fear of choosing wrong, fear of losing someone who actually mattered. They're seeing clearly now that the test was born from insecurity, not wisdom. And what hurts them the most is that you responded with dignity, grace, and emotional maturity they didn't expect. You didn't crumble. You didn't lash out. You didn't chase them from fear. You stood firm in your worth. And that is exactly what exposed the cracks in their own heart. Don't scroll, because here comes the confirmation your spirit has been waiting for. The person you're connected to is reaching a point where pretending isn't working anymore. The silence is becoming unbearable. The distance feels painful. The emptiness of your absence is louder than their pride. They've tried distracting themselves with work, with people, with noise, but nothing replaces the peace they felt with you. They're realizing that nobody understands their heart like you do. Nobody listens the way you did. Nobody touches their soul the way your energy did. They're realizing they didn't just test your loyalty, they tested your connection, and the connection won. They're starting to think about what they'd say if they reached out. They're rehearsing apologies in their mind. They're wondering if it's too late. They're scared you've pulled away for good, but the thought of never hearing from you again is breaking them in a way they can't hide. They've been checking their phone more often, scrolling through your old conversations, fighting the urge to message you. They've even typed things out, stared at the screen, then deleted everything out of fear of being rejected. But the urge to reach out keeps coming back stronger each time, like something inside them is rising, pushing, insisting, do it. Don't lose them. Don't scroll, because the energy is shifting. The universe is preparing a moment of alignment, something small yet powerful that will open a door between you two again. A sign. A dream. A sudden overwhelming feeling. A moment of courage. They're getting closer to breaking their silence. Closer to choosing vulnerability over fear. Closer to realizing that losing you would be the biggest mistake of their life. Their love for you is becoming louder than their fear of being hurt. And when that happens, everything changes. And your soul will feel the shift before their message arrives. Don't scroll, listen closely, because what I'm about to reveal will feel like someone is reading your heart out loud, and if you've been sensing a massive emotional shift in the energy lately, this is exactly why. Your person has reached a breaking point, not the kind that destroys someone, but the kind that wakes their soul up so violently that they can no longer ignore what the universe has been trying to show them. They've been fighting their feelings, wrestling with their emotions, drowning in thoughts they can't quiet, and everything inside them is pointing back to you. The test they put you through, the silence, the distance, the hesitation, has turned into their own spiritual lesson. Every day since then, they've been haunted by the way you responded with so much calm, so much emotional maturity, so much quiet strength. You didn't collapse. You didn't beg. You didn't fall into chaos. You just stayed aligned. And that shook them more than anything else. It made them realize that your love isn't impulsive, it's rooted. Your soul isn't fragile, it's anchored. Your heart isn't desperate, it's intentional. And that difference is something they haven't been able to shake. Don't scroll, this next part will hit your spirit. They've been overwhelmed with signs lately, the kind that follow them everywhere and refuse to be ignored. 11:11 when they think of messaging you. 3:33 when they're having doubts. 4:44 when they pray for clarity. 7:77 when they visualize a future. And each time one of these signs appears, they feel a pull in their chest, a spiritual tug reminding them that the connection they tried to test is actually divinely guided. They've been waking up from dreams of you that feel like déjà vu from another lifetime. Dreams where your energy feels familiar. Dreams where you speak without words. Dreams where they feel your presence so intensely that waking up feels like a loss. And they're starting to understand that these dreams aren't random, they're spiritual reminders. The universe is trying to bring them back to you. Don't scroll, the emotional truth is rising. They've been carrying guilt like a weight on their shoulders, realizing they pushed away someone who was never trying to hurt them in the first place. They've been replaying your last conversations. They've been analyzing your silence. They've been thinking about everything they said, and everything they didn't say. And lately, they've been feeling the fear of losing you in a way that shakes their entire body. They're imagining what life would look like if they never hear your voice again, and that thought terrifies them. Someone close to them, a friend, a sibling, maybe a family member, has noticed the emotional shift, the sudden quietness, the zoning out, the sighs, the way your person keeps checking their phone, hoping for something they're too scared to ask for. And that person has been pushing them gently, asking questions like, "Why don't you just talk to them?" or "What are you so scared of?" Your person doesn't have an answer because the truth is complicated. They're afraid of being vulnerable, afraid of being rejected, afraid that they don't deserve the kind of love you gave them so effortlessly. But at the same time, the fear of losing you forever is becoming stronger than the fear of reaching out. Don't scroll, your double confirmation is here. They've been fantasizing about the moment they come back into your life. In their mind, they run through every scenario. How they would explain the test, how they would apologize, how they would soften their voice when they say your name. They imagine your reaction. They imagine what it would feel like to hold you again. They imagine how different things could be if they stop letting fear run their heart. They've been checking your social media quietly, reading your messages over and over, trying to decode your silence. Part of them hopes you're waiting. Another part fears you've already let go. And that's why they've been emotionally overwhelmed, because their heart is calling to you louder than their pride can silence. Don't scroll, this is where everything shifts. The universe is cornering them spiritually, pushing them toward a moment where they have no choice but to act. The signs are intensifying. The dreams are becoming more vivid. The longing is becoming unbearable. Their emotions are building pressure like a storm waiting to break. They're realizing that staying silent is hurting them more than anything else. They're realizing that missing you isn't a phase, it's a truth. They're realizing that what they feel for you is deeper than they allowed themselves to admit. And soon, very soon, they will reach the point where the need to reconnect becomes stronger than the fear of being vulnerable. The moment is coming when they will gather the courage to break the silence, to step toward you, to tell you the truth that's been growing inside their chest. You will feel the energy shift first, a sudden warmth, a calm wave, a knowing sensation, and then, the message, the sign, the moment you've been intuitively sensing. The silence is preparing to break in a way that transforms everything.